I'm curious, being a biotech company that is operating from Africa, I'm sure the challenges have been enormous. What are some of the memorable ones, the ones that really kept you up at night? And how did you get around them?
And
Just
they are
to give
still
people hope.
and they are still keeping me up at night. So,
I can imagine. Yeah.
well, I think when we started out, biotech was relatively new in South Africa. In the US, biotech started in the 70s, but the commercial aspects of biotech, the industry aspects of it, was still relatively new. The input came from the US and European countries, but primarily from the US. And the images of those labs and reading about the cutting edge research on the commercial side, trying to translate that and convey that message in South Africa to potential investors and partners. I think that was the initial challenge to first of all, yeah, it was communication, because in South Africa, biotech was an umbrella term for a lot of things, from baking bread, basic microbiology, breeding, tissue
Yeah.
culture, stem cell
Yeah.
research, genetic manipulation, all of that, was under biotech. So I think that was a challenge for us. It was fragmented under that umbrella, and then you need to say, okay, but what do you want to do in biotech that leads to something that you can commercialize? Conveying that message and translating that to a non-scientific community at the time where the pool of potential investors was much smaller, I would say, than now. As I've mentioned to you, Adrienne, the incubators and accelerators that didn't exist,
Yes.
you know, and so the awareness, I think, it wasn't there yet in the South African space. So I think there was a willingness to hear us out. And I mean, the feedback from potential investors, look, we appreciate what biotechnology is, but we don't understand it yet. And yeah, we were very fortunate with the investors that did come along and took a chance on us. They took us seriously, and we are very fortunate for them to come on board and allow us actually to fulfill this dream. Yeah.
And I'm sure that in the process, you have grown tremendously through the challenges. You've gained more skills and more business acumen. I'm curious, as someone who came from a pure academic background and with a keen interest in business and who wanted to actually run your own biotech company, what are some of the key skills that you would say has been like the foundation for you to stay the course? And how have you kept up with your upskilling?
Adrian, that played a significant role, and I'm still on that learning journey. As you said, it started out, I'm a lab rat and I'm pure immersed in science. But when we started out the company, the group said, Mauritz, you like talking about science, and so you go out and find funding for us and talk to investors and that kind of thing. So I focused, at that time on the science and the technical aspects, and very quickly hands-on learning and feedback from investors, feedback, with colleagues, mentor on, look, Maurice, this is not how we would want to hear the message. This is actually what we want to hear. So it was hands-on learning and real world. I was, rooted in reality, real world feedback, and going back and reflecting on it. This didn't work. This message that I tried to articulate didn't work. It didn't land well. So all of
Yeah.
those lessons, learned. And then slowly but surely, obviously immersing myself into literature in business, from business aspects, resources, as well as, when the internship with business advisors, that really broadened my horizons in the business world, hands-on skills. So I think, Adrienne, that was my personal goal. I didn't want to do another, although I did a few short courses at business schools, project management, finance, and all of
Yeah.
that. But I wanted to learn hands-on, what it would take to get to that process, to be able to write a business plan and to pitch to
Yeah.
investors and still share my vision and my passion. So yeah, it was a lot of asking for advice and accepting, or the willingness to accept other perspectives, multiple perspectives from people that have gone through business exits and being in a real world, on the business side. So I've highlighted, it was actually continuous education, but you asked
Mm-hmm.
what skills was it? And it was actually not necessarily the technical skills. I mean, we've learned that, how to write a business plan, the pitch decks and all
Yeah.
of that, the market strategy. But I would say, Adrian, if you ask me now and what I'm still learning, and those are the most important skills, is to tolerate uncertainty, is
Mm.
to accept complexity, the willingness to embrace complexity, and not to depend on textbook frameworks and theories, but to really be rooted in reality and face complexity. And I would say relationship management and,
Mm.
to have a deep understanding of risk, of relationship management, of how innovation works in other countries, but also in Africa. Adrian, to try and get clarity of the desire of what you want to achieve, to address that question on why did we start this, those are the skills. And that is feedback, continuous feedback from mentors, from colleagues, from my spouse, and combined with, a mental, physical health to keep that up. I think
Yeah.
that's an integration of so many things to allow you to keep tolerating that uncertainty. Like where we are
Mm-mm.
now, we're in a fundraising phase. Adrian, the oscillation between passion and fear of failure is there the whole time. You're never
Yeah.
out of the woods. And I think, yeah, those are the skills. The technical
Mm.
skills you can learn, but those other skills you need to develop as well. And that is through contemplation and try to infuse also your values with
Mm.
what is meaningful and fulfilling.